This lecture provides a high-level overview of industry analysis using Porter's 5 Forces framework. By the end of this mini-lecture, you should be able to first, articulate how a 5 Forces analysis will help you evaluate the overall attractiveness of an industry. Second, explain what each of the 5 forces represents. And third, articulate some of the potential weaknesses of the 5 Forces framework. The first question you may ask is, why are we studying industry analysis at all? Professor Rich Macadoc likes to say that industry analysis is the Willie Sutton theory of strategy. In case you don't know, Willie Sutton was a famous American bank robber in the 1930s. When police finally arrested Willie, a newspaper reporter asked him, "Hey Willie, why do you rob banks?" And Willie's classic response was,
"Because that's where the money is."
The same sort of logic underlies the purpose of industry analysis. You want to choose the industry which has the greatest profit potential because you can make more money with less effort and less risk. So the key question of industry analysis is, what drives the profitability of a market or industry? One of the most common conceptual tools for analyzing industry profitability is Michael Porter's 5 Forces framework. According to Porter, the overall profitability of an industry should be determined by 5 threats. First, the threat of rivalry among current competitors. Second, the threat of powerful buyers bargaining for greater shares of industry profits. Third, the threat of powerful suppliers bargaining for greater shares of industry profits. Fourth, the threat of new entrants to the industry. And fifth, the threat that substitute products or services will draw customers away from our industry. If you ask most managers who the relevant players are in their industry, they will typically zoom in quickly and discuss their direct competitors. The Porter's 5 Forces framework invites us to zoom out a bit, however, and include 4 additional potential players who can significantly impact the overall profitability of an industry. Buyers may bargain for lower prices, and suppliers may bargain for higher prices. New entrants want to join your industry to capture market share and appropriate some of the industry's profits. Other industries may try to steal some of your customers through offering substitute products or services. Ultimately, each set of players have their own best interests in mind, and you must aggressively work to ensure your own best interests. A detailed review of each of the 5 threats to industry profitability is too lengthy for the present lecture, so I'll only give a brief overview of each one here. But I will discuss these forces in roughly the order of importance or potential impact on industry profits. Note, however, that the relative importance of each of these 5 forces varies by industry. First, rivalry. Rivalry among incumbents may be the most intuitive of the 5 forces. After all, this is what most managers will point to when you ask them about the most important players in their industries. High rivalry leads to reduced profitability because incumbents must compete aggressively to maintain and/or increase their market share. Incumbents do so through price discounting, new product introductions, advertising and marketing campaigns, and service improvements. These moves are all costly to incumbent firms and drive down industry profitability. Second, buyer power. Powerful buyers can capture more value by forcing down prices, demanding higher quality or better service, thereby driving up costs, and by playing industry incumbents off each other. Powerful buyers can use their negotiating leverage to shift profits from industry incumbents into their own coffers. There are a number of factors that determine whether or not buyers are powerful, but one of the most important is the ratio of buyers to industry incumbents. If there are only a few buyers but many industry incumbents, then buyers will likely be powerful. Third, supplier power. Powerful suppliers can capture more value in the same ways that powerful buyers can, but in the reverse direction. They can charge higher prices, limit quantities or services, or shift some of their costs to industry incumbents. Powerful suppliers can squeeze additional profits out of an industry that is unable to pass on cost increases to its own customers. Similarly to buyer power, if there are few suppliers but many industry incumbents, the suppliers will tend to be powerful. For example, Microsoft has degraded the profits of the PC industry by increasing prices. The PC makers must compete aggressively for sales and, therefore, cannot pass these costs directly on to consumers. The result is that value shifts from the PC makers to Microsoft. Fourth, new entrants. New entrants can threaten the overall profitability because when they enter, they capture market share from industry incumbents. Their entry puts pressure on prices, costs, and the level of investment required for all firms in the industry, even the incumbents. Consider, for example, how the threat of entry by the Holland Sweetener Company into the patent-protected aspartame industry affected industry profitability. NutraSweet enjoyed a monopoly that ensured high margins for years, until their patent expired. After the patent expired, just the threat of Holland Sweetener entering the aspartame market forced NutraSweet to make price concessions to existing customers, effectively reducing the overall profitability of the aspartame industry. Thus, regardless of whether entrants actually enter the market, the threat of new entrants can still put downward pressure on industry profitability. Fifth, substitutes. A substitute performs a similar function as an industry's products by different means. Self-service travel websites substitute for travel agents, and a drinking fountain substitutes for carbonated soda. The threat of substitutes decreases industry profitability by putting a cap on the prices the industry can charge for its products. If prices get too high in the industry, then customers will be driven to substitutes rather than the industry's products. If an industry is unable to differentiate itself through product performance or other means, then substitutes may destroy industry profitability. The threat of substitutes also may limit an industry's ability to get fat during the good times. Porter uses the example of the demand for phones in emerging markets. The surge in demand for wired telephones has been capped by mobile phones. Many people opt for their first phone to be a mobile phone rather than starting with a wired phone. Thus, the wired phone industry is unable to realize the potential growth in these markets. One of the greatest strengths of the Five Forces framework is that it basically provides a laundry list of items to consider as you think about the various threats to industry profitability. But the framework is not perfect, and it has some limitations. First of all, the framework does not fully account for other external factors such as government regulations or societal norms that may influence industry profits. These other factors may be very important and should not be ignored. Second, the Five Forces framework only views other parties in the firm's environment as competitors, not as potential allies. We can certainly imagine situations in which firms work with other parties to enhance their combined profits. Third, some strategists have suggested adding a sixth force that examines the availability of complements. While substitutes replace the value your products provide, complements enhance the value your products provide. Availability of complements may actually enhance industry profitability because sales in that industry increase sales in your industry. For example, the development of new and innovative apps complemented the early iPhone and facilitated greater iPhone sales. Finally, this framework is only useful for analyzing industries or markets. It has almost nothing to say about why some firms may outperform others within a market or industry. It cannot explain the often large differences in profitability within industries. Despite all of these limitations, however, the Five Forces framework is still the best available tool for analyzing and assessing and predicting the profit potential of an industry or market.